Hello everyone, welcome to 3ddesignacademy.com. In this lesson, we will continue with part 3 of the Lamborghini Aventador project. So in the previous lesson, we spent some time working on the wheel flats. So I'm going to go ahead and work on the upper, starting with the side glass. So in order to do that, I'm just going to create a degree 2 curve like this. I'm just going to strike a curve over here, a little bit below the side glass line. And I'm going to go to the top view and I'm just going to bring the curve out a little bit. I'm going to give it a little bit of crown like this. And I'm going to use the stretch tool to somewhat mimic the curvature of the glass that we have right here. But I'm not going to make it exactly, because in reality we should actually be creating a barrel because the glass has to roll down. In this example, we're not going to go full out super engineering specific, but we're just going to try to imitate it while keeping the modeling a little bit simpler. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to, now that we have the curve established, I'm just going to create a vertical curve like this. And from the front view, actually I'm going to change the canvas. I'm going to turn the rear off and I'm going to turn the front on. I'm going to give it a little bit of crown, not too much, and I'm just going to use the stretch tool to lean it this way as to somewhat mimic the slant that we have on the side glass over here. Okay, so that's good, and I'm just going to go ahead and do a rail. It's just going to be one-on-one, and it's going to be parallel so that we have a nice horizontal. Well, let's turn ISO angle on. I'm going to turn multiple number of bands so that we have a nice horizontal highlight over here. Okay, so I think that looks pretty good. And now let's go ahead and create some curves for the side glass. So I'm just going to, I'm just going to extend this just a little bit. And I'm going to go ahead and create some curves like this. And it looks like our peak is actually over here. I know there's a peak over here, but I think, let's check an image over here. So if you see this over here, I feel like the theoretical should go somewhere over here. I know the glass peak is over here, but we gotta be a little bit more mindful of the pillar over here. So I think that's where I'm going to set it as. Actually, there's another image that I might want to take a look. So let me just bring that up. Now, if you see this image over here from a little bit tip-up view, you will see that I think the theoretical should be located somewhere over here. So that's where I'm going to set mine as. Okay, so let's go ahead and I'm going to, the curve is over here like this. And I'm just going to use the stretch tool to position it somewhere here. And I'm going to just grab a curve like that. Now this is just rough, so we're just trying to get the positioning of it. So I'm just going to keep it nice and rough, so that if we need to, we can always adjust it later. Now for the glass line, you want to target this lower line here, because let's see if I can bring up an image that might show that. Oh, okay. There we go. So if you see this over here, Lamborghini has quite a gap between its rail and the glass over here. So there's quite a bit of gap, and you actually want to target the line below, because that's where the side glass actually is. So you want to make sure of that. Okay, so I think that's good. I'm just going to keep it rough, and I'm just going to create a curve over here like this. I'm just going to strike it somewhere here, and I'm going to strike a curve right here. Actually, you know what? These lines should be somewhat complementary to each other. It doesn't need to be perfectly parallel, but it should at least be similar. So I'm just going to set it at that, and I'm going to strike a curve over here like this, as to match it over here. Okay, so I think that looks good. Let's go ahead and project. So I'm just going to grab these curves like this. Now, actually I forgot one. So I'm going to grab this one like this. Okay, so you'll see that even though my generation curve was here, the surface where the projected line is completely off. So what you need to do is, you gotta start matching it. So right now the position is completely off. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to bring the curves out like this, the rail curves, so that we can keep the history and we can start to match it a little bit. So you'll notice that even though the bottom matches here, it's not matching well over here. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to use the stretch tool to bring this edge out like this. And you'll see that it's starting to match a little bit. And I do feel like we need a little bit of crown. I think this curve is a little bit flat. So I'm going to add a little bit of crown like this. I'm just going to move it down from the top view so that we can do that. Okay, so I think that looks pretty good. And now, I think the front is, well, this is kind of weird. Okay, so I think I'm actually, well, you know what? I'm going to add a little bit more crown. And I'm going to just use this one to bring this up a little bit. And I think I'm going to add a little bit of crown on this curve over here because I think it might be a little bit too flat. I'm not quite sure. But I do notice that this needs to, at this point needs to be brought outward. So I'm going to go ahead and do that. So in order to do that, I'm going to just go to, I'm going to press 9 so that we can view all 4 views. And what I'm going to do is I'm just going to use NUV like this in order to give it a little bit of crown. And that'll bring this down. Now this brings it down over here too, but I think we need to add a little bit of crown to that surface like this. And I think that's starting to work a little bit better. And let's go ahead and adjust all the curves a little bit. I think I need to move this a little bit up like this. And well, actually, you know what? Let me see if I need to adjust this. I think it's a little bit off. And well, maybe it's the fillet. So I know it's a little bit off here. So there needs to be a fillet over here in order to counter some of that. Hopefully that's going to be okay. And I think what I'm going to do is I'm actually going to rotate this whole thing. So I'm just going to use the stretch tool to in order to point this a little bit more towards the inboard side. And what that'll allow me to do is keep this point a little bit more lined up. And I think another thing that I'm going to do, well, actually, you know what? Let me just bring this. So now this requires, this actually does require a lot of massaging. So let's go ahead and do that. And I think what I'm going to do is I'm just going to use the stretch tool to minimize the amount of lean that we have over here. So let me just do it a little bit more like this. And I think I'm not sure why it's not matching that well over here. So maybe I'll just bring this curve a little bit up so that my projection curve, so now that it's a little bit closer here. And I also might just bring this up a little bit more like this so that it goes in a little bit. Now I don't think the curvature here looks perfect. So I might have to do a little refinement here and there. So I think I want to, what you want to do is you want to adjust both the surface and the projection curve so that you have a somewhat of a balance. Okay, so I don't think that looks too bad right now. I know there's a little bit of wiggle over here, but that also goes inside. So this line over here is actually the pillar. So I don't think you need to worry about it too much. And what I'm going to do is I'm actually going to lean this a little bit more so that we have a little bit more section going in this way. Okay, so I would say that's good enough for now. We're going to be doing more refinement later. So I'm just going to trim that off. So we have a side glass over here with this going in a little bit. I might have to reduce the crown a little bit. I'm not quite sure, but we'll definitely come back to this in order to refine it. Okay, so now what we are going to do is we're going to create the side, not the side glass, but the roof. So first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to hide all these curves because they're in the way. So I'm going to just create a new layer, and I'm going to grab all these curves. I'm going to hide it. and I'm going to label this project. And while I'm at it, I'm actually going to grab this one as well. So I'm just going to hide it over here like this. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to, well, actually, I'm going this curve, I'm going to put them in wheel flat layer, and this one I'm just going to, well, wait, wheel flat, and I'm going to just move this curve out of the way. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to create a curve or set of curves for the roof. Okay, so in order to do that, I think what I'm going to do is I'm just going to duplicate this one, and I'm just going to give it say degree 2 in order to make it a little bit simple. And I'm going to be, well, actually this one I'm not going to do that. Okay, so what I'm going to do is I'm just going to delete the construction history on this one, and what I'm going to do is I'm going to match this line over here. So I'm just going to move it up like this from the side view, or from the top view I mean, and I'm just going to extend this piece like this, and I'm going to just use a stretch tool to refine it a little bit. And it looks like this is a good location for the peak, or where the theoretical is supposed to go. And I'm just going to strike a curve from here to all the way over here. I'm going to give it a little bit of crown, and I'm probably going to give it a little bit of acceleration so that it matches the shape a little bit. And actually I might extend it just a little bit like this. And let's check it from the side view so that it matches from both the top and the side. Now we do have to make it aligned to this one, so I'm just going to bring up all the curves like this, up like that, and I'm going to use the stretch tool, and I'm just going to go up and down so that it doesn't change the location over here. And same thing over here, I'm going to, well, actually this needs to be brought down, so I'm just going to match it somewhere here. And I'm going to give it a little puff right here so that I know it's the resolution of the canvas is not that great, but at least we'll try to match it as to the best of our abilities. Okay, so I think that looks good. I might give it a little bit of acceleration over here, and I say that's looking not too bad. Yeah, I think the peak is about here. So the curve, I think, is matching quite well. I might just flatten this a little bit like that. From the side view, I think it doesn't look too bad. Okay, so I think that looks good. Okay, so now this location, we need to be a little bit wary of this, because the shape between the Lamborghini Aventador 700 LP700, which you can see here, is flat. But if you look at the 750 we are actually modeling from, let's see if I can grab the image. Let's see. 750, if you see over here, it's got a little bit of flick. But in order to create this surface, you cannot base it off the canvas of the flick over here, but you gotta base it off of this original. So what I'm gonna do is I'm going to, well, try to mimic this one, because the roof has to follow this one. So let's go ahead and see if we can do that. So we should actually be matching the height somewhere over here, and from the rear view, let's see if I can bring up the rear. I am going to strike this line, but this surface, the roof surface which I'm about to make, it needs to be based a little bit below so that we can create a flick over here. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to strike a curve like this, so from the rear view, and give it a little bit of crown like that. And I'm just going to bring it to the rear so that it actually matches. And I'm just going to create something like this. And I'm going to give it a little bit of crown this way. I wish the wing wasn't here, but it is. So we'll just have to go by the image and the eye. Okay, so let me try to bring... Okay, so this is the kind of crown and angle that we need. I know I have a top view somewhere, so let me just bring that. There we go. Okay, so yeah, so that's the angle that we are trying to target. So I would say, well, I guess that's not too bad. So maybe I'll just do something like this, which I believe this should be somewhat complementary. So I'm just going to base it off of that. It might be poking out a little bit too much, but well, we'll just leave it for now. Okay, so I would say that's good. And what I'm going to do is I'm just going to make sure from the side view it looks good. Well, maybe I'll just bring up just a hair. From the rear view, I think that looks good. So what I'm going to do is, this is actually the line for the LP750. So I'm just going to copy and paste it. And if you see over here, let me just bring up an image. You said that this, well, basically this point is the same and it's flicking up this way. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to copy paste like I did. And I'm just going to grab it using the stretch tool. I'm just going to bring it slightly down. And that's where I'm going to have it located. Okay, so I think from the side view, it's a little bit lower, but that's okay. Well, let's actually see if that'll match. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to actually grab this curve and I'm going to put it on a different layer. So that's hidden. Let's say curve. I'm going to extend this curve a little bit and I'm going to use the stretch tool to snap it over here like this so that it's exactly located where I want it to. Okay, so right now I think because of the movement, the CV move that we just did, I think it's a little bit lower. So I'm just going to add a little bit of crown, a little bit more crown in order to compensate for that. And well, as far as this point goes, I think it doesn't look too bad. So I'm actually going to give it a little bit, point it back out, and I'm just going to move this one a little bit inboard, or outboard, I mean, like this. And I'm just going to check it back from the side view, and I don't think that looks too bad. All right, so I would say that's good. Make sure that it's following the canvas like that, and I think that looks pretty good. Okay, so now let's go ahead and create the center. So I'm just going to copy and paste these curves like this, and I'm just going to use the stretch tool. Actually, I'm just going to grab all the CVs like this, and I'm just going to snap it to the grid by using Alt and my right mouse button. Now these two have to be a little offset, so I'm just going to grab the curves like this. Oops, not the CVs, but the curves. And I'm just going to move it this way. Now, you could always use the offset tool in order to do this. But let me just move it a little bit up. And yeah, I think that's good. Okay, so I'm just going to use the stretch tool in order to match the center shape, and I'm going to give it a little bit more crown like this. And I think that looks pretty good at the center, and I'm probably going to raise it up just a little bit. I'll snap it over here. And this one looks like it's got a little bit less crown. Actually, you know what? Let me just move this theoretical point a little bit forward so that we can match it a little bit better. I think that looks pretty good, and I think that looks good over here. All right. Okay, so and now because the Lamborghini has a little faceted roof, the build is going to be a little bit different than a regular roof of typical cars. But we are going to do implement some of the techniques that we use to create the regular roof. So because the windshield actually does have to be without kink, as you can see over here, the windshield doesn't have any faceted shape. The roof does, but the windshield can't. So for the windshield, I'm going to copy this curve over to the other side like this. And I think we are matching the shape quite well. So I think that's good. And I'm going to go ahead and use skin. So I'm going to just click on this curve over here, and I'm going to press and hold shift, click this one and this one like this. Okay, so I think the glass shape looks pretty good, but I think I can use a little bit more. So I'm just going to extend this curve like this, so that it's following the canvas nicely. And I'm actually going to point it just a little bit like this. And I'm going to use the stretch tool to snap this one over here like that. Now this point really doesn't matter because, well, because the Lamborghini is a rear engine or mid engine, it's actually cut off. So this point actually doesn't really matter because we're probably going to be trimming it anyways. So we'll just leave it like that for now, and we'll try to refine that a little bit later. Okay, so we got the glass here. However, I think the highlight is not too bad. I think it's a little bit flat towards the front. So I probably have to crank this up a little bit like that, so that we have somewhat of an even crown. So I don't think the highlight is as great as it can be. So maybe what I'll do is, instead of giving more crown on the front, maybe I'll reduce the crown on the rear like this. Maybe that'll help. And actually that'll keep the roof a little bit lower than what it was. And I think that's a little bit better. Yeah, I think that's a little bit better over here. So I would say that's good. And what I'm going to do is, well, actually the rear, I would have to, well, you know what? I am still going to create the surface over here so that we have some kind of basis for this. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to duplicate mirror over here. And we do need to create a filler over here. So I think I am going to create this roof piece over here. So same thing over here. I'm just going to click on the skin, hold and shift, and just click all the way through so that we have a nice surface over here. And yeah, I think that looks pretty good. Okay. So after that, we are going to create a surface or a fillet for this transition over here. So what I'm going to do is I'm actually going to, well, actually before we continue, let me just save so that it doesn't blow up. So I'm just going to create a surface fillet like this. I'm going to say chord G2. It's going to be, well, it's going to be quite large, and I do want to keep the form factor at 0.5 because it is a larger surface. So I'm just going to do this like that. And I'm going to say edge align. Oh, edge align over here as well. And that is way too small. So I'm going to crank it up to 600. Oh, actually that creates a nicer surface over here. Okay. All right. So I think the transition actually needs to be even bigger. So I'm going to go ahead and make it maybe 800. Well, let's check the image. You know what? Let's go 1,000. I know it's huge, but I think we need, oh, not 100, but 1,000. Looks like it's lagging a little bit. Okay, but we still have it. Yeah, I think that's much better. I think it's following the canvas nicely. So I think that should be our target. Okay, so the only problem is right now we have a span in the middle. So I'm going to try to get rid of that. And let's go ahead and see. Actually, before that, we actually have to add a little bit of acceleration, because right now, if you see the roof and the windshield, it's just a degree 2. But that's how that is not how surfaces are created. So what I'm gonna do is I have a target. So I'm saying that's good for now. And what I'm gonna do is I'm going to add a little bit of acceleration as towards the outboard side. So I'm just going to delete the construction history on these, and I'm going to make them degree 3. Oh, not this way, well, this way, like this. and I'm going to create a little bit of acceleration towards the outboard side. Okay, so what I'm going to do is I'm just going to turn symmetry on these pieces over here. And actually, let's just go over here. And I'm going to use the stretch tool. Oh, not the stretch tool. I'm going to use the slide tool. I'm going to pick slide and I'm going to click on hull selection. And I'm just going to slide it. Actually, you know what? I don't even need to do that. I'm just going to grab all the CVs like this. And I'm just going to slide them out like that. And what that does, if you look at the curvature like this, it creates a nice shape over here. Now, if I just, I don't think I can go Control Z. All right. But if I were to just do that with the degree 2 curve, let's see. I'm just going to create a curve like this. Actually, you know what? Let me just make this easier. So if I were to just do a degree 2 curve like this, and I'm just going to delete the construction history and bring it out. And if I compare this edge to this edge, now this edge does need to be brought out a little bit more, but let me just show you guys this one. So if I were to just go back to curvature and select this one and select this one, you see that this is very even over here, and this actually has a peak towards the center. This isn't how glasses are made. Now, with the Lamborghini, because everything's so flat, it's kind of hard to see. But there's a little bit of acceleration towards the outboard side, and it's a little bit flatter in the center. So this is what you have to do. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and use the CV move, and I'm going to do a proportional modification. I'm going to grab these CVs like this, and I'm just going to bring them out, slide, and I'm going to use this one so that the center stays the same. And I'm just going to crank this one out just a little bit so that we achieve. Oh, shit, that was a mistake. I don't want to go 2, I just want to go 1 so that this one stays as is. Okay, so I'm just going to bring these out like that. And let's check the curvature. So we got a little bit of acceleration towards the outboard side. Now this looks a little bit weird. I think it's partly due to how the CV and the shape is structured, but it's fine as long as we give it a little bit more acceleration towards the front or towards the outboard side. I think it should be good. Okay, so I would say that's good enough. And let's do the, well, actually this one I'm just going to leave it because this is just a prep surface for later. Okay, so I think that looks pretty good. I think I'm just going to finish it with the fillet over here. So let's see if it creates it. Hopefully it doesn't crash. There we go. Okay, so now we have the roof shape. I think that actually fits quite well. So let me just do a little bit cleanup on this one. So because right now it's got, I think it's got too many spans. So I'm going to go ahead. I'm just going to duplicate these 2 edges over here, and I'm actually going to do undo on that one. And in order to clean up, I'm just going to do a carbon surface over here like this, and I'm going to snap it over here like that, and I'm going to snap it over here like that, and I'm going to trim over here, and use the square tool. 1, 2, 3, and 4. Oh, 1, 2, 3, and 4. 1 is going to be curvature, 3 is going to be curvature, and we got a nice roof over here. I don't like how the CVs are structured, but well, that's just following the natural shape of the surface over here. So I think I'll just leave it for now. Okay, so yeah, I think that looks good. The CV structure, I think it could use a little push this way, but for now, I think I'll just leave it. Okay, so I think that should be it. Okay, so that's it for part 3. We'll continue in the next tutorial, and thank you guys for watching.